Aesop Rock and Blockhead Garbology album review. Let's chat about it. Hey guys, what's going on? Johnny Everyone's Spinning here tonight to chat about the latest from Aesop Rock and at one time very frequent collaborator Blockhead. Now, if you were a fan of underground and experimental hip-hop in the early 2000s, this is a duo that you should know. If you are a fan of this channel, then you would have probably read my review on Aesop Rock's The Impossible Kid, saw my very positive review of his Malibu Ken project with Tobacco, and saw my absolute rave review of Spirit World Field Guide late last year. Aesop Rock is an artist that means a lot to me, and one of the major reasons why I enjoy any hip-hop, let alone underground and experimental hip-hop. But Blockhead is kind of where it started with him, as well as me, too. From their work on the very gloomy and introverted Float to the very introspective masterpiece of Labor Days, these two were really made for each other in the early 2000s. And it's not like either one of their styles on their own are very easy to get into. Trust me, they're not. But together, they complement each other very well. I mean, Aesop Rock in his early days was spitting rhymes about conspiracy theories and calling himself Jabberwocky Superfly and quoting, oh god, what the hell was that? Invasion of the Body Snatchers. All of these things alongside of Blockhead's very off-kilter, very weird beats that sample just everything under the sun seemingly and just were inspired by so many different corners of the globe. These are two like very clashing styles, but they came together and more often than not it worked. Now around the time of Aesop Rock's very animated, cartoonish, very personality driven Bazooka Tooth, Aesop and Blockhead did drift away a little bit, even if Blockhead did produce some tracks on that album as well as his None Shall Pass album. It's not like they drifted too far away. That being said, I've been dreaming of a day where the two of them get back together for a full-length album. So in retrospect, I've been waiting for this album for almost 20 years, which is crazy to even begin to fathom about. And leading up to this album, I thought the singles were very promising. Let's chat about it. This album starts off with The Only Picture as an intro, and it's fine. It's not the most vibrant or telling intro here. It just sort of ushers you back into their wonderfully weird world and kind of gets you up to speed in about 40 seconds. It is effective though. But let me tell you, Jazz Hands is great. This is it right here, man. I love the very spacey, hazy beat between these two. They have their own sort of weird dimension. It's constantly shifting, and I love how, once again, Aesop Rock's verses continue to be very personal, which is kind of where we're at with him in 2021. Between The Impossible Kid and Spirit World Field Guide, we've learned a lot more about him as a person, which is something I never thought I would think, growing up and hearing him chat about, I don't know, Invasion of the Body Snatchers. It's really down to earth and really cool, actually. Now, if I may split hairs just for a split second, this album isn't as revolutionary as, say, Labor Days. But let me tell you, when that beat comes in here and it really drops, like instantly, I'm a teenager again, and this is friggin' awesome. Wolf Piss is really great as well. It's so weird. Like, on one hand, this sounds nothing like their earlier collaborations, but in a weird way, it does. I love the eerie, practically campy beat that we get here, as well as Aesop's very laser-focused verse. I mean, you know what you're getting from Aesop Rock in 2021. If you're a fan of his, you know what to expect. You're getting weird characters, strange occurrences, oddball thoughts, all alongside his genuinely personal bars at times that, actually end up working nicely alongside one another. Honestly, it's really captivating. Legerdemain, on the other hand, takes a bluesier approach as far as the beat goes, which actually complements Aesop's very intense, wordy verse pretty nicely. And once again, it takes me back, mostly because Blockhead's beats and productions here are just so ghastly, so dimly lit, but Aesop's, very intense bars kind of fill in the gaps. This is just that, but brought up to speed. And it might just be me, And I swear it might be, but there is a dark underbelly to this track that is just something that I have always eaten up when it comes to Aesop's music. And some of these one-liners here, maybe Aesop's weirdest in years, and that is saying something. Check out Tuesday on Malibu Ken, but my God, this is working for me right now. Difficult is where things begin to get, like, really interesting. Truthfully, this is, once again, in Aesop Rock's catalog, maybe one of his most personal releases. He has not eased up on that at all. I would argue that we are more in his psyche than ever. But on top of that very deeply sinister, gloomy beat that we get here from Blockhead is icing on the cake. These two are just a great collaborative duo in the world of underground hip-hop. I will say this, though, there are some areas on this album where I just, it's a little bit more obvious than others that things just aren't the same. All the Smartest People is the first real blemish on this album, and this one is tough for me. I mean, really, really tough for me, because lyrically, it's one of my favorite tracks here. I think it's just awesomely wrote. I mean, this is classic Aesop, and it shows. It is weird. Easily, though, least favorite beat here, least favorite production here, and even Aesop's performance here, like, while it is wonderfully wrote, he just sounds like he's ready to fall asleep. I don't know. I mean, like, that's kind of been his shtick for a while. I know he does that sometimes, but this just is too much, man. And Oh Fudge is a weird one because it's the one track here that I feel like there's an honest-to-God disconnect between Aesop and Blockhead. I don't feel like this track really plays to anybody's strengths. Aesop sounds like he's trying way too hard to be weird here, which is something I never say about him. And Blockhead sounds like he's trying to play catch-up. And late in the album, the C is just disheartening. It's just very average on all fronts. And if you know just how much collaborative force the two of these men have, just hearing a track like this, it's very, very, very disheartening. Just not the most captivating verse from Aesop, and this beat is just very lukewarm. Also, things don't progress. Outside of that, though, this album may not be perfect, but if you're a treat of early 2000s underground hip-hop or just a big fan of Aesop Rock, you're gonna want to hear most of this. More cycles. This is home for me, man. I love the ultra campy synths, and I love the off-kilter pacing and the beat. It's moments like this where Aesop doesn't even come off like an MC. He comes off like some weirdo prophet, and that's a compliment. In a weird way, it reminds me of like one of the deeper, more personal tracks on The Impossible Kid years ago. When Blockhead and Aesop are on the same page and going full force, they come up with something really special. Flamingo Pink, it's really good as well. I mean, also, I should point out, if you're new to Aesop Rock, which I don't know why you'd start here, but if for some reason you are, grab your lyric book, get on Genius, and read along, folks. You're gonna need anything that you could possibly grab onto for help. Because let me tell you, his lyrical onslaught here, alongside this very creeping, very eerie, very campy beat, it's something to behold. But some of his one-liners here are pretty fantastic, and as far as a hook goes on an Aesop Rock track, this is great. Speaking of chemistry, we also have All Day Breakfast featuring homeboy Sandman. If you haven't yet, go back and check out some of their Lice projects. Most of them are more decent than not. This is one of the most intense and exciting and hard-hitting tracks here. These two also have great chemistry. And Sandman, his performance here, pretty great. As far as a beat alone goes, Fizz by itself, just listening to the beat, takes me back to Labor Days, man. This track feels like it has weird origins and influences from all over the globe that I would have gone nuts for. Aesop Rock here just sounds like such a veteran of these genres. He's so silky smooth. And I love this. I love the themes here. I love the way it portrays Aesop Rock and paints who he is. That Is Not a Wizard is really great as well. Once again, we are seeing the darker and the more sinister side of Aesop Rock here. I will always go for that. It's visual, it's very animated, but it's also very telling. And I'd say as far as a by-the-books Aesop Rock track goes, look no further. And as a fitting end goes, Abandoned Malls is just the ticket, man. This just seems right. Lyrically, this track is awesome. I love how biographical it is. It's so gloomy and empty sounding. It's so heartbroken, and that alongside just how gloomy and empty this track sounds, it's much like an abandoned mall, which is fascinating. This just seems like a very right ending. So, you know what? This album's not perfect. There's a lot of this album that's probably just nostalgia for me. I'll be the first one to admit it. There are flaws here, and when this album is bad, it gets bad pretty quickly. But most of this is just a feast for anybody who loves Aesop's music or loves underground hip-hop from the early 2000s. And eat it up, man. Enjoy it. Check it out. It may not be as revolutionary anymore, but these two have so much chemistry, it's certainly worth more than one listen. Feeling a light 8 on this album. Let me know what you guys think down below. If you like the video, be sure to give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let me know down below what you would like for me to chat about in the future. And until next time, have a great day, guys.